Good afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of the Nonprofit Show. We are having a great time already, and we're just at the beginning. It's such an honor to be a part of and to be able to share the stage with Micah James. And we're going to have an opportunity to really dig in and spend some time adding to our success kit when we talk about self-care today. So we're going to learn a little bit more and hear from Micah in that regard. But again, welcome back. I am Wendy Adams, and I have the illustrious privilege to be a part of the co-host cohort, and that is exactly it. Julia C. Patrick has joined me today, but there are others who are a part of this, and that's Mitch Stein, Miko Marquette Whitlock, Tony Bell, Sherry Kwam Taylor, and Meredith Tarian. We have a great time. It really is a little illegal how much fun we were able to have, I say. But it is. It's a good time to be had by all. And it wouldn't be possible if not for our presenting sponsors. Bloomerang, which Micah comes from today, American Nonprofit Academy, Nonprofit Thought Leader, Staffing Boutique Inc., Your Part-Time Controller, 180 Management Group, Fundraising Academy at National University, Nonprofit Tech Talk, and JMT Consulting. So many have been with us right from the beginning, and I believe we're at 1,100 episodes. So that says a lot, and we really are so grateful. What fun we have in store for us today. And so, Julia, let's get ready.
All right. Well, hey, Micah James, one of our faves from Bloomerang. Everybody at Bloomerang is great. But Micah, you come to us with some really interesting perspectives and 6 kids in tow that you manage. And when I knew you well before I knew you had such a big brood at home, and I always am like amazed at what a calm woman you are. And so I have to like give you the shout out for like motherhood because it's really amazing that you can do all this. So welcome back, my friend.
It is such a joy to be here, and I will say that the crew is doing their summer thing in just the other room. So we'll hope the storm keeps at bay today. No, I'm just kidding. They're great. They're great. They're doing their thing. So
it's cool. Well, talk to us about what your position, senior platform coach, means, because we've been watching you since the beginning. Bloomerang was one of our very first sponsors, and you've really grown with the organization. What is it that you do to support the Bloomerang family, if you will?
Yeah, I've been with Bloomerang 3 years, and over that time, Bloomerang has been really intentional about investing in partnering with organizations as they utilize the product. So the team that I sit on helps organizations really maximize the nonprofit experience with Bloomerang. So as senior platform coach, I work with nonprofits day in and day out to make sure they're maximizing those workflows, setting up those online forms to be as frictionless as possible, doing that good best practice of receipting and acknowledgement and good cultivation so they can have that high donor retention. So really walking all the way through the donor experience side by side with those organizations.
Amazing. It's got to be somewhat of an interesting journey for you working with organizations, because I've got to believe a lot of them have never done a digital platform experience or interface. So you're not just taking people that used to know one product and now they need to know another. You're dealing with people on a brand new structure. Is that fair to say or not?
Handful of people that are coming straight from Excel or Google Sheets with their donor information into their first CRM. So one of my favorite moments is the ahas of like, you mean I don't have to do this manually anymore? You mean I can use these mail merges and set this up with automation? And so just seeing kind of those fundraising practices come to life and technology come alongside fundraising in a fun way.
Yeah, that's cool.
Tears of joy. Tears of joy.
Yeah, Wendy, I like that. I like that a lot. Because Wendy, how it is when that light bulb goes off and then all of a sudden you're like, yes, holy moly. It's not like I'm going to go home early today. It's that I'm going to get to do other work that I need to get done, right?
Well, I'm productive. I feel efficient. I'm serving with excellence, right? All of those things. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Well, let's
When
get
I
into
brought,
it. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
when I brought the technology to my very first organization, because that's how I found Bloomerang, is I was a user
Ah,
before. When I brought it to my first organization, the staff that was with me, they were like, they exactly said that. They were like, what am I going to do with the rest of my time? And I was like, we're going to go do good stuff.
yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I mean, it's exactly that, Julia.
Oh my gosh, I love it. You know what? That is for me, when I hear you say that, and both of you ladies, echo this, it's the silver lining from the pandemic. It's the
Yes.
movement into some new technology and processes and procedures that, the nonprofit sector is slow to move, slow to change. And so this is like, okay, this was one of those benefits that we had. But let's talk about something that maybe is not a benefit
Mm.
or should be a benefit, something that we don't talk about, and that's work life and balance in the nonprofit sector. Does this exist?
Is the unicorn real?
Exactly.
Well, first of all, I think we have sort of a like misnomer when it comes
Mm,
to the word balance. I think when we hear the word balance, we think 50-50, and we think everything is supposed to be equal all the time. And when I think of work-life balance, I think ebb and flow, yin and yang. And, as fundraisers, we really need to make sure that everything in the end works out balanced. But
hmm
on any
hmm
given day, you might have more, donor cultivation appointments than you do, gem time. And then, on another day, you might have a longer lunch with your best friend than you do, entering data. And so it's an ebb and flow, not necessarily making sure that all of those calendar blocks match at the end of every day 50-50.
Okay. Because you know what? Maybe I'm late to the game, ladies, but I swear to God, I've never thought of it that way as an ebb and flow. To me, it's been like very hard and linear, and that's where the crisis comes in because you never meet it. It never
Well,
works.
that's it. It doesn't. There is no even. And Julia, you're not late to the table. That's just how we've been programmed for so long. I mean, Micah, you said I can have lunch. Not just like, I mean, not just at the desk, but you said with a friend. And so it's that integration that we're talking about, right? And I think it was so wonderful that you jumped into define balance for us because we weren't defining it correctly. Um, Man, I've been waiting for this all week. Oh gosh.
And it's one thing to define it for yourself. It's
Mm-hmm.
another thing to then extend that conversation into your organization, because
Yes.
I can very well have a good understanding of balance for myself. I can have that block of, a shorter lunch on one day and a longer lunch on
Mm-hmm.
another day. But if I don't communicate that to my team and my director and my board about like, let's have a real conversation about what fundraising life looks like, then some of our board live in a 9 to 5 blocked
Yeah.
world, and the ebb and flow won't make sense.
Mm-mm.
And so we really need to have a real conversation about how it's all going to work out in the end. I'm still doing my job. If you come in at 1:30 and I've taken a longer lunch, that doesn't mean that I've taken a longer lunch every day. That means that one day I probably worked 14 hours, and this is just a flexible balance to make sure that I'm with you past 18 months, which is what we know is the tenure of the average fundraiser these days. So, like, this is our conversation to make sure that this is sustainable.
Well, I'm going to brag on Wendy and I a little bit. Actually, no, a lot of it. We had Mike Geiger, the CEO of AFP on,
Mm-hmm.
and we called him out on this and we said, first of all, is this data correct that AFP has been reporting 18 months? is the average tenure time of a professional fundraiser. And his comment to us was that it's moving up, and there's a little bit more recognition of stronger job satisfaction. And his comment, Wendy and I were like, okay, yeah. And he was a super fun guest, really interesting.
Yes.
I mean, he was so engaging, but he said he felt like across the country, 1.8 million of our nonprofits, they're starting to pay a little bit more, and that was the ticket for keeping people on. But I'm telling you, I think now talking with you, wow, the pay is incredibly valuable. I'm wondering if it's not this conversation that needs to be had first.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked for several nonprofit organizations, and some of them understood this better than others. And I will say there's a stress feeling when you walk in at 9:30 and your administrative staff's been there since 8. And if there's not an understanding in the whole staff that, no, I'm doing my job looks different than yours.
Yes.
There's a little bit of tension and jealousy built into the culture if you don't have that conversation out loud.
Absolutely. Micah, you said it really well when you said even to your board. They have an expectation that everyone, or they may, looks like the way that they work within their sector. And so it's really informing them. It's not that they want to keep us in a box, it's the only box that they know. So let's make sure that they understand. And you said it so well. My job looks different, and all of us doing our jobs to our best is what makes us all better. So so good. So good.
It's
Well,
really,
and to be honest, if we're doing our job really well, they want us out of the building.
Well, yes. I'm not here to sit and meet. Not with you.
Yeah. At least a portion of the time.
I think that's true, Micah, but I think that a lot of people, there's still this old-fashioned, if you're sitting at your desk, you're working mentality, right? And so that's part of the whole conversation of everything from work from home, work from anywhere. But let's move on to this intersection of sustainable fundraising, because I think that's kind of what you were leading us into with, sharing about how our jobs look different. But I agree with Wendy, that communication piece to C-suite and board, huge. What does the intersection of sustainable fundraising look like?
There are lots of studies right now that say the micro donor is dissolving, and the DAFs and the big donors are really where it's at, which is putting a lot of pressure on fundraisers right now, because if I don't get that big gift, then I'm not gonna go meet my goal. But there's this middle section, right, of the recurring givers or the loyal givers that really are gonna make this kind of wonderful river of sustainability for your organization. And we don't often have the capacity to focus on them, or B, the board is like, no, I want you to go after the $1 million gift or the $5 million gift. And when we lose sight that it's not either or, but it's both and, it's really important to know that that's really stressful, that if I don't get that, then it's broken. Like, I've missed it. And so allowing your donor, your fundraisers to have the time to invest in the $100 gift 12 times a year, and the $500 gift year over year, is going to alleviate that stress, but also it's going to build long relationships with your organization that are going to live way beyond that particular fundraiser.
And that's what it's all about, right? We are not looking to do this today and it drop off for tomorrow. Everything we're doing is about sustainability. When we think of the big, hairy, audacious goals that we're going after, that has to be at its foundation. And you hit on it, that monthly donor, that sustainable piece, that river, also turns into that planned gift well beyond. And we tend to miss how those dots connect. This is a huge piece that we can't overlook.
Wendy, I've got to ask you this question. I mean, the way you just said it was so eloquent and logical and calm. But do you think boards understand this?
Not to that extent, and some, but we
Yeah.
don't talk about it enough. Like literally, that conversation has to happen. We go back to we cannot assume. We know we can't assume with our donors. Why would we do that with our board? They don't know, and so let's educate them in that space. And we may have to remind when it's hey, go after the big, how much it makes a difference. It really is. I've just seen, even personally, missed opportunity for that 25-year donor who was giving $50 a month. And when they passed, not even an opportunity. This happened personally, where we even spoke of the opportunity for legacy giving because it was just an overlook. We can't keep doing that.
I can count time and time again where I'm in a boardroom and the board would rather have a list of the, major donors and the top donors that we're going after than the loyal donors, right?
Yes.
The 5, 10, 15-year donors. And I feel like we're really missing an opportunity not only to support our fundraisers and our organization, but really to kind of build a sustainable model. We should really reinforce that it's easier to keep a donor than go get a new one.
Keep staff, then keep churning. I mean, over and over again, it's that
yes,
sustainable piece that, yes, absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
so interesting. When you talk about I think of my mother saying, keeping the wolves, at bay from the door and how the stress builds up in the fundraising team. And in a lot of our nonprofits, they're like one people. That's a one person team. And the stress of walking through the door, did you get the money? Are we going to get paid? Can we keep going? So how do we look at self-care and professional life, Micah? Because I agree with you. There's a sense for a lot of folks, especially when we talk about programming to fundraising. It's like, oh, the programming people do the hard work and the fundraising people, they just go out to lunch.
Right. Well, and we're even counted in that ugly, heaven forbid, overhead number, right? And no, one of the things that I really hone on, even when I manage teams myself, is like, we're not just like cranking every day, all day. You're not just a widget and a wheel. Like, you're not just a fundraiser in a workflow. Like, I have to know you as a human. So the first thing I'm going to not ask you is not like, how was that ask or how is that project or whatever. It's like, how are the kids? Like, what'd you do this weekend? Like, on the very basic level, like, I have to know you as a human. And because if I don't know you as a human, I don't know what's stressing you out. And so I don't know if you've got a mom that's sick. I don't know if your house got hit by a tornado. I don't know if, you've got some, financial worries because your kid's about to go to college. Like, I don't know what's going on in your world outside of the stress of I've got to go get that major gift. I've got to build this sustainable river because we all know that's what on the outside affects what's on the inside. So we've got to make sure that we know the human inside of the fundraiser.
So good. So good. And you know who does know the human? The donor. The donor knows those answers. You're having those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wendy, that's an interesting comment. I've never thought of it that way. But that's probably more true than we realize because of those relationships that we're building.
Yeah.
And
we can't do it over here.
Yeah, and it reflects on the organization. I have had some kind of awkward encounters with donors where they're like, they're grinding you that hard. Don't they know X, Y, or Z? And I'm like, oh, you know that, my kid's been sick with, X, Y, or Z, but like, and you're recognizing that I'm sweating bullets from every orifice. Like, and so they know,
Mm-hmm.
how the organization is treating their employees. Um, you know, it plays into the pay question. It plays into, the PTO question. It plays that like, so if you think those fundraisers are showing up and they're like robots and able to do the donors are humans too. They're pretty perceptive and
Oh
they're
yeah.
they're they're gonna know that like, oh, sorry, I was a few minutes late. The kid was sick. Like, they're gonna pick up on it.
They do. I had a donor say, don't you dare call me on the 30th December, unless you're calling to see Happy New Year. Like, don't you, they do. They care about the human. You've built that relationship, and they want to make sure that that's what's happening within the organization. So it is holistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's an interesting way to look at it. We've teased you because you're a working mother of 6 and you got so much going on. And you live in Tornado Alley. So even as we speak, you have, life to think about and worry about. As an employee, and say take your mind back to that time you're working at a nonprofit.
Mm.
What would make you feel valued and cared for in your professional life? Like,
Yeah.
it's easy to say, okay, more money, I need an increase in my salary. But what are some other things that organizations should be looking at so we're not doing this churn and burn on our team?
Yeah. We talk about sustainability and funding. I think there's also a sustainability and schedule. Um, you know, 7 events in the spring versus, so just being aware of, if we have 5 events in May and I have school kids, they also have 47 events in May. And so there's just this awareness of the world around us,
Mm-hmm.
we're not I had somebody tell me once is like, you're not the only thing in town, right? And I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so just an awareness of, you're part of a collective. You're not the
Mm-hmm.
only thing. We joke about the pay thing, but I don't think I've ever worked in a nonprofit where at least one member of the staff wasn't also receiving government services.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Either,
what a great point.
childcare support, food support, something. And,
Mm-hmm.
even to this day, I look at some of the job postings and we're hearing numbers like it's taking between 80,000 and 100,000 for, to be a middle class family. I'm seeing postings at half that
Oh, yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
the nonprofit
Mm-hmm.
world. And, we've got to have a real conversation about this overhead versus
Oh,
program thing. If we really want to make an impact, we've got to invest in actually raising the funds for that impact, and it's not a bad thing. And so helping me as a fundraiser have that conversation, because I can't be the only voice.
amen.
And so, I would get really passionate about it, but if I don't have other people around me doing that, that would make my world as an employee so much better. And honestly, pizza parties are great, but, mm, and, just understanding that, life happens and cars break down and all of that, just goes so much further than anything else.
Yeah. I appreciate that. It's like bringing some, humanity to
Mm-hmm.
our labor force. But I also think that even if we just look at it in terms of dollars and cents, I think we need to be more strategic and just not saying, well, our employees are passionate and they work with, their hearts and stuff like that. That's not sustainable. That is not sustainable. And we want professionals. We want educated professionals. We want our kids in America going through nonprofit management curriculum in the university and master's and doctoral levels, right? So we've got to elevate these conversations so that it is a valued profession. Because
Absolutely.
if we
So well
don't,
said.
well, I mean, think about it, Wendy. If we don't, um, we lose them to the for-profit world where they can achieve and do well and
And what are we saying? What's the message that we're sending to those that we're serving? Right? We're here to help you, but if they don't see that, we've got to walk the talk. Really, it comes down to really walking that out. And so we're doing so much better in that within our organizations, and they're watching. I mean, we've talked about that. They see. So that is so important. So important.
Micah James, wow, this has been fun. I feel like you've taken us to church today and school and helped us to understand some things that we think of now. I don't say we think about it, but maybe we sense, but we haven't articulated it, and we haven't, pulled it in. My big takeaway, Wendy, and I don't know about you, but and it was like a aha duh moment. Like, I should know this, but you illuminated it, was that we need to be communicating to our teams and our boards about what our workflow is and what it is we're doing, so that we can gain that understanding of how the work is going.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the top, defining balance. What does that word really mean? And making sure that we all are on the same page so we can move forward better together.
Better together. Yeah. Micah James, Senior Platform Coach with Bloomerang. Check out Bloomerang. They are an amazing company because they give so much information, so much perspective, and you don't have to be one of their clients. Now, of course, they want you to be a client, but the reality is they share and are such a thought leader. It's truly remarkable. It really is. And you can get this amazing information that they are creating, that they're cultivating, that they're researching, that they're part of, at bloomerang.com. And it is truly, you could spend weeks on your platform, Micah. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, from thought leaders to just best practice workflows to everything in between. Absolutely.
And you have a lot of webinars, you have a lot of training environments from folks all over the country. And so it's a really diverse and robust engagement piece. It's not just Bloomerang folks doing infomercials. It's really, I think, a fascinating cross of folks that come in and talk, from CEOs to board members to fundraisers, a little bit of everything. So check out Micah and as Senior Platform Coach at Bloomerang. And if you're lucky, maybe you'll get her one of these days, right?
Come on, Dan. Let's do this.
I love it. Another thing I love are our amazing sponsors, and that includes Bloomerang, as we mentioned, where Micah James joins us from, American Nonprofit Academy, Nonprofit Thought Leader, Staffing Boutique, Your Part-Time Controller, 180 Management Group, Fundraising Academy at National University, JMT Consulting, and Nonprofit Tech Talk. These are the folks that join us day in and day out. Every day we end this show, Wendy, with our message that goes like this: to stay well so you can do well. And I think we've got to be thinking about that now with that lens of fundraising.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the cup got filled today, so we can pour out.
Fantastic. Yep, absolutely. Let's go make an impact.
I love it. All right, ladies, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you here for another episode of the Nonprofit Show.